To the Neil Haley Show, and my guest today is Sherrie from Storehouse Media Group. Sherrie, how are you? And our topic we're going to cover today is editing, because everyone thinks, hey, I hired an editor, especially a lot of people that go self-published. I hired an editor. Well, what do you think those credentials mean, and what does it mean to be an editor? As you are an editor, you can tell us. And your company does all types of editing.
We do. So first of all, thanks for having me. And thanks for letting me answer that mysterious question that people seem to have. So when it comes to a book, there are different types of editing, and people really, they need to be clear on it. And what we do is we give them a description, a very in-depth description of each edit, so they know what they can expect when they do an edit. So a lot of times, and many times, what we will start off with is a developmental edit. Some people call it a substantial edit. It is it's kind of taking an edit, like taking the 60,000 foot view from, up in the sky, and you're going down, and it's looking at everything, every component of the book, whether it's fiction, whether it's nonfiction. Does it have all the elements? Is it, the pacing, the characterization, the scenes, the setting? How about organization? Is it missing things? So we look at it, we give them notes in the margins on how to improve, and we send it back to them. I had one woman send me a book that was 17,000 words, a memoir. I'm like, no, this is not a memoir. It's way too short. So I went through it, did the developmental edit. She sent that thing back to me, and it was almost 40,000 words. She just needed to know what she needed to put in there, and what she needed to add, and how she needed to add it, and in what order. So what it does is that developmental edit gets in there, and it starts breathing life into your book. It's really kind of edit that most people think of when they think of an edit for a book. So the one down from that is called a line edit. Now, a line edit does just that. It takes your manuscript line by line, and it's looking at more minute things like sentence structure, transitioning. It does look at organization, but it looks more at the content itself and making sure that it's reading well, it's congruent, it's consistent. Okay, you said 3 shoes on page 3, and now on page 103 it says 4 shoes. Well, which is it? So we're looking at details, we're making sure things match up. Your next edit is right before you go to production. It's a copy edit. Whereas the developmental edit, the line edit, were more about content. Your copy edit is more mechanical. We're looking at punctuation. We're looking at typos. We're looking at spelling. We're looking at, word consistency, word overusage, just mechanical issues that can be addressed with your book. And then the final edit is the proofread. And that's after you get it laid out, usually into book form. You're looking at a lot of things. How does it look aesthetically? Do you have line issues, margin issues? There's a lot of other little technical issues that we look at. It also is kind of a cleanup. It makes sure that maybe things that had been overlooked or reintroduced into your book are caught. It's like the final polish on your book. Once you get that proofread done, you're good to go. A lot of times with us, due to either budget or time, we'll combine some edits. Like we'll do a developmental edit and a line edit together, or we'll do a copy edit and a proofread together. So we'll combine these edits. It's not as costly and it's not as time consuming to help the author, depending upon their budget and their time constraints. But always make sure when you're going to get an edit for your book, what kind of edit can I expect? What kind of issues are you going to look at in my book?
Wow, that's a great explanation. How do you tell what type of edit you're getting? Because a lot of
Yes,
people are hiring edited services saying they do all of them, but they can be missing components. How do you, once you hire an editor, because this is a great thing, a lot of self-published authors publish everything, but they might do some piecemeal. They'll hire a cover designer, they'll hire an editor, and then they publish. And they said, well, I hired my editor. How do you know that that editor is competent enough to do all of those areas you talked about in editing?
that's right. I have gone through several editors, and I'll say that I've kissed a lot of frogs before I got to my princes. And so the editors I have, I don't resource editors. I don't go out and look for them other places. These people have been with me for years. You know, my in-house editor works for me and me only. They don't work for other people. And I actually trained her years ago. And so she, if it's my book, she's the only one I would trust because I know what she's going to look for. And she's got such a mind that she remembers the smallest of things. And she'll say, well, on this page is this and that, like, which is it? And she makes sure these are consistent. She's very methodical. So, you know, unfortunately, it's hard to tell unless you have reputation. You can get references or they've done your book. And you don't want to, you know, learn the hard way and put out a lot of money and find. I've heard some horror stories, and a lot of people come to us to fix those horror stories. And you just kind of look at it like, wow, I can't believe this happened. So we do that, and we make sure that they're clear on what to expect from us in the beginning, and they have choices. This is what we'll do here. This is what we'll do it, or we'll combine them. You decide. And so they know what they're going to expect when they go to they have an edit done.
And it's really a human error thing, which is challenging, right? Because a lot of editors could do so well, and then one mistake happens. And I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing is if you don't have that first editor that looks at the book and looks at, there could be no spelling makes nothing, grammar, anything, but it's laid out terribly. The book, even though if it's formatted right, still looks terrible. Amazon figures it out, don't they?
You know, I really can't speak on behalf of Amazon because we'll usually do the proofread or the copy edit before it gets to Amazon or Ingram or one of those, and we'll try, you know, when we do it, we'll clean it up. But it's always good. Like if I'm working on a book and I do a development edit or a line edit, I'll go to my editor and I'll let them do a copy edit proofread. I don't like to tell them anything much about the book. I want them to look at it from a reader's perspective. Like this is like a reader, you're the reader, just picked up the book. Now find all the errors for me. And so I like having different set of eyes, but
Right.
it is always somebody that I trust, and it's my in-house editor.
I wonder if Amazon and Ingram can spot a poorly written book before it goes to market.
I've seen some pretty poorly written books, so I don't
I mean, to
know.
go to market where they don't let it go out to as many people. I mean, think about it. If you don't record in 1080 quality video, you don't have professional video, and you're not a superstar, because you could have terrible quality video and be a superstar and get a viral component. Your video is not going to be pushed out to as many people. If you have not a professional mic for a podcast, you are going to get less listens to your podcast. So I bet you it has to do with books as well. And it has a lot to do with an AI component or internal component to spot those things. So that's why you need to hire someone like Sherrie. Forget all those other horror stories, but you're happy to have a conversation with them as well, right?
Oh
If they,
yeah.
yeah, especially if they're in this process, are they going in the right track? And I have taught one of my team said, you know, it's hilarious. Said, you know, it was a former client. Oh, don't worry, that client wasn't good as an author, anyways. She said, no, she said, I read the book. It was terrible. So there you go. That ultimately, just because you think you're saving money, don't save money on a book.
Don't
Don't
cut
save
corners.
money on marketing because it's
No,
a reflection of who you are.
absolutely.
If you can't afford it, look at things you can afford first and set goals to get to that point.
That's
Because when
right.
you
Yeah.
go ahead.
Because if you have an unedited book or you've cut corners on it, readers pick up on it, and it causes you and the book to lose credibility. But if you have an edited book, somehow it's like, wow, they spent time on this. It meant something to them. So, you know, it's not just about the short run, it's also the long run on, you know, you want to show those readers, listen, I cared about what I was given to you. You're going to pay good money for my book. I'm going to give you something good for your money. And I may be writing other books, and I want you to read my other books as well. So, you know, that marketing, again, I say, if you don't have a marketing plan, you could have written the best book in the world. It's just going to remain a book.
100%. Okay. Best place to go is again
www.storehousemediagroup.com.
All right. Thanks, Sherrie. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Talk to you
Neil.
soon.
Appreciate it.
All right. You're listening, watching the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.